So welcome to this week's insurance advertising live training. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you might have a question, why am I in a camping chair, right? And if you're watching this right now, this is what the setup looks like. You can only see my screen right now, but this is exactly what it looks like. I'm sitting in a camping chair. I have my laptop on my lap, and it's a little bit ghetto, to say the least. The reason why, and I'm kind of going to give you guys the shortened version of the backstory. If you don't know already, we just made a move across the country from North Carolina out here to Arizona. And we don't have any furniture. We left all of it back home. We just drove in our cars, so we don't have anything. And Julian and I were talking back and forth. We decided that we were going to set a goal, and we want to make it a little bit interactive for you guys, right? So our goal is to have $300,000 in premium written from either self-generated leads that you guys learn to generate from this group or from the course or from getting a done-for-you setup, or from advanced agent leads, right? And so we want to have $300,000 in written business in premium. That could be from term insurance, life insurance. But once we reach $300,000 in premium, we are going to buy furniture, and we're actually going to have a real office set up. We'll get a desk, and all of the videos will be a lot higher quality. So we thought that would be a little bit fun to include you guys in that, make this interactive, get some people chatting in there. And I think it's going to be some good motivators for some of the newer agents so that they can see that everything that we're doing is actually possible. So now, let's get into what this training is actually supposed to be about. So it's going to be about how to generate high-intent term life insurance leads that auto-book onto your calendar and practically beg you to write them and their entire family. We call it the Terminator method. We've got a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger right there as the Terminator. So here's how it works. With term leads, there's a couple different types, right? There's two main types of term leads, and that's mortgage protection and general term. Now, if you've been in the business for a while, you probably know what both of those are. If you're new to the business, I'm going to give you a brief rundown of what both of those types of leads are. Now, mortgage protection is just a term policy. Sometimes it'll be a decreasing term policy, so as you pay the mortgage off, the face amount of the policy will decrease. But with a mortgage protection, it's a way to sell term. It's a way to advertise it. And so the reason someone would buy mortgage protection is to protect their mortgage, right? They just bought a house, they took out a big mortgage, and if something happens to them, they don't want their family to have to get kicked out of the house. So a mortgage protection policy would pay off the remaining balance of what they owe on the house. Therefore, their family would get the entire asset of the house, and they wouldn't be stuck with a mortgage payment, having the income of the household cut in half, presumably, right? And so that's what mortgage protection is. General term is basically just like selling term insurance for the fact of having insurance, right? So why do you need term insurance? Well, if something happens to you, you want your family to inherit some amount of money. You want them to be able to replace your income, keep making the house payment, put food on the table. Maybe you just want to leave them a parting gift, right? That's what term insurance and general term is sold as. So which type of lead is better? Is mortgage protection better? Is general term better? Does it even matter? Well, let's see. So again, mortgage protection is going to give you a direct use case for the life insurance you sell to them. Obviously, that's to pay off the house. Premiums are typically higher, but the problem is mortgage protection is directly tied to people buying new homes. So if the economy slows down, people stop buying new homes, mortgage protection sales go down too. Now, with mortgage protection leads, they're generally harder to generate on Facebook just because there's not like an audience or an interest on Facebook that is people who just bought homes. Maybe there used to be, but now there's not. Facebook has limited a lot of that. But with general term, it's typically easier to market on Facebook. So general term markets life insurance for the purpose of income replacement, protecting your family, sometimes living benefits. And oftentimes the marketing of general term is going to flex the face amount, right? So get up to $1 million in life insurance for X amount, right? Or get $500,000 in life insurance for X amount. And the premiums are typically lower on just like a general term policy, but there's less of a decline during an economic downturn. There is still a decline, but usually there's less of a decline with general term than mortgage protection. Now with general term, you typically will have a lower cost lead, and they're also a lot easier to generate on Facebook. So how do we target life insurance on Facebook? How do we target people who are interested in life insurance? Well, we don't. right? Instead, what we do is we pick a specific market segment to target. So I have here these 3 circles. Let's say that this blue circle is everybody who needs term insurance, which presumably would be, everyone 18 to 50, sometimes up to 60. But for this example, we'll just say everyone from 18 to 50 years old. So everybody needs term insurance, right? But in order to buy it, they not only have to be willing, but they also have to be able. So for this example, we're going to only want to target people who are making above $50,000 a year. So that's this lighter red circle inside of the blue circle. And then this red dot inside of it is the segment that we would target, which is truck drivers. Because everybody who's buying this type of insurance is buying it for a different reason. A trucker is going to buy insurance for a different reason than a single mom, right? And so if we can narrow down our messaging, term insurance is a very general product, right? But we want to sell it to somebody in a specific market, and we need to know exactly how to talk to them. So that's why we pick a very small segment of the market, and we target all of our messaging towards them. So the key is to niche down, right? Just because term can be sold to everyone doesn't mean we should try to sell it to everyone at once. And again, this is harkening back on the reason an investment banker buys life insurance is very different from the reason a single mom with 2 kids would buy life insurance, right? The way that I would sell them is going to be different. An investment banker is maybe buying a life insurance policy for the tax benefits, whereas a single mom is just buying it because she doesn't want her 2 kids to be in financial trouble if something happens to her, right? Now, eventually we can target multiple niches, right? Maybe later down the line we want to have a campaign that targets single moms, and maybe we also want to have one that targets truckers and nurses and hairdressers and all these different types of niches. But to start off, we just need to pick one. Let's start with one niche, right? Let's master that first. Empires are not built all at once. You have to conquer city by city. And in this example, that is market segment by market segment. Otherwise, if you try to target everybody at the same time, you will get niche slapped. Niche slapped. But you do not want to be niche slapped. Trust me. So here's a couple different examples of niches that are pretty good for life insurance. So we have nurses, which is a one example. Expecting parents, right? This would be people who think that they're going to have kids or are expecting to have kids. Oftentimes they have more uncertainty than people that already have kids because they're anticipating it's something they've never done before. So they're often in a more emotional state than people who have already had the kids. So that would be one example. We also have current parents. These are people that have kids. They can imagine what would happen if they were to pass away and what would happen to their kids, right? So current parents would be one niche. Homeowners, this would be like mortgage protection, obviously. Truck drivers, these people make a lot of money and they have a very dangerous job. They see accidents all day, every single day, so they know that it can happen. They probably know one of their friends that has, seen something very disturbing on the road, or maybe a friend that's passed away in the truck. So truck drivers are a great niche. Pastors are another good niche because they have no benefits, right? They usually work for like a private church, and oftentimes, usually it's like a smaller local community church. They don't have life insurance offered to them by their job. And pastors are also, they can be very sympathetic people, right? They're not going to want to leave their family with a big bill. They're Christians. They're also, they're not going to want to be cremated. More times, often than not, they'll want to be buried. So they're going to need some money for that. And they don't want to leave their family in hard times if something happens to them. Doctors is another good example. Doctors will oftentimes, sometimes the hospital will give them like a small life insurance policy. Same thing with nurses. But as a doctor, you have such a high income that if you were to die, your family is losing quite a lot, right? So these people will often be very open to getting life insurance. Software developers is another one. This is something that I've never seen somebody target software developers with life insurance. If you're watching this and maybe you know something about this niche, I would check that out because these guys make a ton of money, and I don't believe they get life insurance from their job. Another great one would be entrepreneurs and business owners, because these guys don't get benefits and they tend to make a lot of money, right? And if something happens to them, like if a business owner gets injured or gets hurt, their income is gone. So you can also sell them on the living benefits. Personal trainers are another one, right? A lot of insurance agents used to be personal trainers. Maybe if you're watching this and you're an agent, there's probably at least like 5 of you, if there's 20 of you on here that used to be personal trainers. This is a very common source for insurance agents, right? So if you can identify the personal trainers, you know that if you get injured, you can't train people anymore, right? Like if a client that you're training does their deadlift wrong and drops 315 pounds on your leg and snaps in half, how are you going to go out and train people, right? And so these people's income is often tied to their health, and so they would be a very good market. They also don't get really any benefits ever. Personal trainers do. So how do we pick a niche? There's a couple different things that we want to qualify when we're picking a niche. So one, are they big enough, right? Ideally, there are, 1 million plus people in the U.S., so we're only targeting the United States generally. If you're in like the UK or Australia, then you would want to, these numbers would be a little bit different. It would be proportional to the population. But the first question we want to ask is, are they big enough, right? Because if I want to make a life insurance campaign for underwater basket weavers, there's maybe 3,000 of those people in the United States, if that, right? I'm going to run into a cap at a certain point. So we want a large audience. We want a niche audience, but we want them to be large. So ideally 1 million, but at least 500,000, right? Also, we want to figure out, do they have money? Because they have to be willing and able to purchase it, right? And I have bounty hunters and high schoolers. Bounty hunters often make a lot of money, but they typically don't have families. So what are they protecting? Why would they be? They're not really willing to buy life insurance because they don't see a need for it. High schoolers, right? Maybe you could swindle a high schooler into buying life insurance, but they don't have the money to make the payment, right? So they have to be both willing and able to purchase it. So we want people that have a sizable expendable income, but also people that have families and care about leaving money behind to their kids. This one is huge. Do you have a point of tangency, right? Did you used to work in that niche? Do you have family members in that niche? Can you relate to them? So for example, I'll go back to this list of niches. If I'm going to target expecting parents or current parents and I don't have kids, I'm not going to be able to relate to them nearly as well as somebody who does, right? Or if I'm a single dude, I probably wouldn't target single moms as my niche who I'm going to target. I mean, maybe you relate really well to single moms. Maybe you're a single dude and you just really know how to talk to single moms. Maybe that's your thing. But if you can't really relate to them or you don't know how to talk to those people, I wouldn't target that niche, right? Like if I don't know how truck drivers talk and I just don't like them in general, I don't really agree with them politically as a whole, or I don't like the way that they view life, then I wouldn't target truck drivers. So you want a niche that you can relate to. A good way to find one that you relate to is maybe your family member works in that niche or used to work in that niche. Maybe you worked in that niche before. Maybe like you used to be a trucker. There's a lot of people that'll target truckers that used to be a trucker, and they can tell stories that are very relatable, right? Another one is, do you like talking to them? This ties in with tangency. Like if you hate truck drivers, don't talk to truckers. And if you hate teachers and you hate the public school system, you're probably not going to relate very well to teachers, right? So make sure that it's a group of people that you not only can talk to, but you kind of identify with a little bit, and they're going to feel heard when you talk to them. Like if they're talking about a bunch of things in their industry and you're just like nodding on like you have no idea what they're talking about, they're not going to feel like you get them. Part of this is you want them to feel like you get them and you get all of their pain points. So make sure that you can stand talking to these people. Don't pick a group that you hate. But also, like if you have a point of tangency, it's not like the end all be all, but it's a big pro if you do, right? So if I used to work as a plumber and I can target plumbers for life insurance, that's my niche, right? That makes a ton of sense. Plumbers make a lot of money. They don't usually have benefits, and they work a fairly dangerous job. So that would be a great thing to look at there. One thing that people mess up on a lot is they go through this entire checklist. They find a large enough niche. They're over 1 million people. They have expendable income. They have money. I relate to them. Maybe I used to be in this niche. I like talking to them. I agree with them. I like the way that they view life. But but then maybe they're veterans, right? Veterans have employee benefit packages. They have a ton of life insurance that they get from their job. People that have benefits from work, they can add on extra life insurance, but it's not going to be as easy of a sell, right? Sometimes teachers could be a good niche, but they usually have like a discounted life insurance policy that they can get through the state, right? So, union workers, I wouldn't target people that are in unions. Police officers, they get a lot of life insurance. Firemen, even though these are dangerous jobs that have expendable income, they're not going to be a great niche to target because they get those benefit packages from the state and they won't really see a need for life insurance unless they're just trying to add on top of what they already have. So people that are 1099s and contractors are usually great options. So, insurance agents, for example, if they didn't already know about life insurance, that would be a great example, a great niche to target. And I would imagine that most people in here would know how to relate and talk to insurance agents. So 1099s and contractors, so that's like your truckers, hairstylists, pastors, plumbers, electricians, laborers, people that have expendable income, they make a lot of money, entrepreneurs, but they don't have the benefit packages, right? So 1099s and contractors are always going to be a great bet. So now let's talk about actually crafting your message, right? So now that we've decided on a niche, and for this example, we're going to do nurses, it's time to craft our message so that we are very clear on what we're going to, or how we're going to be marketing this very general product, which is life insurance. And just like an onion, there are layers to how deep you can go with this. The deeper you dive into your niche, the better your marketing will be. So the more that you understand them, the more that you can use the terms that they use, you can talk the talk, walk the walk, the better you're going to be at selling these people and marketing to them in your ads, right? The more you understand the audience, obviously the easier it's going to be to market to them, but you need to understand their desires, their fears, their pain points, their frustrations. And then this last thing here, what is their Achilles heel? And I'm going to touch on that in a second, but I first want to give you guys a couple different ways where if you're kind of unfamiliar with your niche, ways where you can find out more about them and find out how to talk to them. So for example, right, if I really want to target truckers, but I don't know anything about truckers, I don't know anything about the industry, I just know that I like talking to them because maybe I've sold them a life insurance policy before and they seem like good people. Well, what I can do is I can look up trucker forums online and scroll through and read how they talk to each other. Read the problems that they're having. Read the fears that they have, their dreams, their desires. One thing you realize is a lot of truckers are also bikers, right? In their free time, they ride Harleys around. They also typically lean more towards conservative. They tend to be more conservative. So if I know these things, I can write them all down. And if I can craft a customer profile, so for example, give this person a name. Maybe the guy's name is Daryl Smith, right? And I put all these attributes that I find out about truckers and I tie them to Daryl. So maybe, write this down on a sheet of paper, right? So Daryl Smith, he owns a Harley. He likes to go biking on the weekend. He's conservative. He's a Christian. He's this, he's that. And if I write down all these things, then whenever I craft my message, and this guy would be like a general representation of what truckers would be. Whenever I craft my marketing message on my ads, I can tailor it to speak to Daryl. And in turn, by speaking to Daryl, I'm speaking to a whole lot of other people that are very similar, right? Because he represents that niche. So forums is a good thing. YouTube is also a great option to learn more about your audience. So you could just look up like trucker videos and find out like influencers in their space, watch some of their videos, see how they talk, see how they interact with each other. And that way, whenever you're writing your ads or you're talking to them on the phone, you can relate to them a lot easier. So let's get back to the Achilles heel, right? What is that? So the Achilles heel, if you guys have ever seen the movie Troy, Brad Pitt plays Achilles. This is where the term Achilles heel comes from. So Achilles is like a great warrior. You can't kill him unless you hit him in the heel, right? So you see this cat with the arrow in his heel. That is the one spot, that's the one chink in his armor, if you will. So the Achilles heel with people, that's like and it goes with sales as well. It's like the one thing that if you hit on that pain point, they're going to be very receptive, right? So for example, with truckers, right? Truckers they see a lot of accidents, right? It's on their mind because they're on the road all the time. So one of their insecurities, one of the things that would keep them up at night is, what if I get in an accident and I can't hop back in the truck and produce income for my family? Or what if I get in an accident, which is very common on the road? They think that drivers are more distracted these days, they're more reckless. That's a great point of fear that a lot of truckers have is, if I get in an accident and die, what's going to happen to my family, right? So it's the one thing that keeps them up at night. It's the job insecurity and the what ifs. So an example, as I said, we're going to be using nurses. So in nurses, Achilles heel would be, they're going into work. They're seeing death all day, every day. They're seeing car accidents. They're seeing gunshot wounds. And if you've ever have you ever thought about or talked to somebody that watches the news all the time, or they watch those kidnapping shows? If whatever they input into their mind is what they're going to output. So, before the 1980s, before the 90s, when there was late night television and they would broadcast all these kidnappings, nobody was scared of kidnappings, right? Parents would let their kids go out and play. And then all of a sudden after that, everybody wanted to keep their kids inside. And it was there's going to be a kidnapping here, a kidnapping there. And the frequency of kidnappings didn't really go up, but the overall, society's overall perception of it did. And that's the same thing with nurses or truckers or people that see these, police officers. Police officers think that more crime happens than actually does because that's all they see and that's all they're exposed to. So for example, a nurse, right? They're going to work every day, all day, every day. They're surrounded with death. They're surrounded with illness. This is something they think about constantly, right? If you ever talk to a nurse, or you maybe married to a nurse, or your mom or your cousin or whoever's a nurse, they speak about sickness and illness differently than other people because they see it all the time, right? And so it's top of mind for them. And so an Achilles heel for a nurse would be that, right? They see this all the time. This question is on their mind. What if something happens to me, right? I could get in an accident because I see car accidents all the time. I could get sick or I could die, right? And what would my family be left with? So once we find out the Achilles heel, when we're writing our ad copy, we want to strike at the Achilles heel, right? We want to, play archery and just shoot arrows at that Achilles heel. So here's an example of an ad copy I wrote for nurses. Attention, nurses and CNAs. Is it just us, or does it seem like the world is getting crazier every single day? There's more accidents, people getting sick and dying. As a nurse, you see death and sickness every day. We know that anything can happen at any time. But what if something happens to you? Do you have a plan in place to protect your family? Right? I'm hitting on that Achilles heel. To make up for lost income? If not, here's your chance. And as you can see, I'm stringing them along every line that I go. So line by line, there's more accidents, people getting sick and dying. It's I'm leaving them on an up note, on a cliff. If not, here's your chance. Okay, what's my chance, right? Well, luckily, there's a new program for nurses and healthcare workers to get up to $1 million in life insurance just in case you end up becoming a patient instead of a caregiver. Up to $1 million in coverage for your family, covers you in case of an accident, no medical exam required. Click Learn More to see if you qualify in just a few minutes. And as you can see, the structure of this ad copy could be used for just about any niche, right? You could use the same thing for truckers. You'd use the same thing for parents. The structure's the same, but the language and the messaging I'm using are different. So, if I'm targeting this to truckers, is it just us, or does it seem like the roads are getting crazier and crazier every day? There's more distracted drivers and more car accidents and more pileups. And they're reading through this and they're like, yes, yes, yes. They're saying yes over and over. Yeah, it does seem like everyone's more distracted. Everyone's on their phone. They're freaking idiots everywhere. And then this last part here where I tie it in, luckily there's a new program for nurses and healthcare workers to get up to $1 million in life insurance just in case you end up becoming a patient instead of a caregiver. That is a call to action that is directly, or not a call to action, but a reason to get life insurance that is specifically crafted in their language. And so that is an ad copy that I did for nurses. So now with making the ad, right, with general term, what typically grabs the attention are the big numbers. When we're selling whole life insurance, like final expense, it's not the big numbers, it's the security, it's the guarantee, right? $10,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money, but if I could guarantee you that that's going to be paid out to your family, how much is that worth to you? A lot. Well, with term, it's the opposite, right? It's the big number. We're flashing the sexy, the big number, right? So you could get up to $1 million in life insurance, and these people are like, "Oh my God, $1 million!" And it's not guaranteed. I mean, term pays out like 1% of the time, but it's psychologically, it's like, wow, that's a big number. I don't even know if I could earn that in my lifetime, right? And so we like to flex the big numbers on the ad. So $100,000 from 1425, $250,000 for 3562, 500K from 7125, right? I want to see if I qualify for that. All you got to do is run through the short survey, right? And so this headline says, are you a nurse? Get life insurance that protects your family. No medical exam and no waiting period. So this is like the basic structure of all of the ads that we use for term insurance. This is exactly how we would craft a message, go through the steps of everything, find that Achilles heel and all of that. So that's the basis of term insurance. We don't have time today to go through like a setup of the Facebook ad, but I do want to give you guys a little bit, some nuggets that you can use, because we've done the setup with Facebook for a lot of these videos, so you guys understand the basis of how Facebook works. But the key with term is with final expense, we're just targeting age usually, whereas with term, we have to target interest. So it's a little bit more complex to generate these leads. So we're going to cover the targeting. If you guys want, like in a future training or a future video that we post for us to like show you how you would set this up on Facebook, please leave a comment down below and I'll be happy to make that for you. Again, we're already running a little bit over time. I'm 1 minute over, but I do want to give you guys this last little bit here. Feel free to drop a comment down below or leave something in the comments here on this Facebook Live, or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment if you want to see us go through the setup on Facebook. But this is like the targeting. This is the most important part with term, second to the ad creative. So there's a few different ways to target your audience. And what you'll realize is Facebook is really good at finding them for you. So there's a couple different ways that you can target. Interests, careers, and then lookalike audiences is going to be something that you utilize later down the line. So let's say I want to launch a campaign for nurses, right? I can target on Facebook people that work as a nurse or people that work in healthcare. So I can type in nurses and then next to, I believe it says careers or like job title, it'll say nurses. So I can click on that. Just in the US alone, there should be like 3.5 million people. I looked it up earlier. I don't remember the exact number, but I can just target people that are nurses. What I can also do is I can look up nurses online and I can go through those forums and I can see things that they're interested in. For example, I know that truckers are often bikers. So I could go and create an ad for truckers and target Harley Davidson on Facebook. Now, granted, a lot of people the first few days of me running that ad are going to ride Harleys but not be truckers. But Facebook has over 10,000 data points on every single customer or every single user that is on Facebook. So if I start running those, Facebook is going to optimize very quickly, and they're going to realize that the people that are clicking on this ad not only like Harley Davidsons, but they also follow, maybe this big trucking brand, Peterbilt, right? And they're going to make that connection. All of a sudden, my ad's going to optimize, and maybe Harley Davidson is like the killer interest that I never would have guessed if I was only targeting people that had their career listed on Facebook as a truck driver, right? And so once you do this long enough, your pixel on Facebook is going to start to learn about who your customer is. And so then I can go in on my audiences. I can create a lookalike audience based off of people that have filled out my form, off of people that have already become leads. Or if I'm like tracking all of my sales, which you should do, you could upload that list into Facebook. Once it's like, over a couple hundred people, upload that list into Facebook, and I can find all these people that are similar to people that have bought life insurance from me. And then Facebook is going to be able to find them directly for you. So we want to start with like interest and careers. We want to start with targeting, for example, nurse, healthcare worker, CNA. I can't really think of like interests that nurses would have outside. They'd probably be, somewhat into fitness, or a lot of times nurses are also parents or single moms. So if I can make that connection and find interests that parents have or single moms, oftentimes they're women as well. So maybe they have interest in like beauty or cosmetics. I could target that. But once I have enough data, then I can move over to lookalike audiences, and that's where it gets really crazy and you start seeing ridiculously low lead costs. So this is what we're going to touch on for this training today. Step by step, we went from how to pick a niche, how to not get niche slapped, how to target on Facebook, crafting the ad, crafting the message, and everything. So thank you guys so much for hopping on. I really appreciate it. We will see you guys next Tuesday. Peace.